Fujifilm has released the long-awaited X106, and judging by the demand, it will easily become the most popular camera of this year. Just look at the instant hype, numerous reviews and sold-out pre-orders. But the questions remain. Is this camera worth the massive hype? Is the increased asking price justifiable? And should you rush to buy it? It feels like a gold rush in the 19th century or the latest Bitcoin rally. Everyone wants to hop on the hype train, and there are a couple of good reasons for it. This 35mm fixed lens compact camera packs more than we could have imagined only a few years ago. 40 megapixel sensor with 6 top IBIS and 6.2K video recording capability in the same beautiful design body as its super successful predecessor. Is the X-T5 in a body of X100V. I've used both of these cameras and they are great if you are a casual photographer who wants an easy way of capturing superb images for family albums and social media, and you want a camera that can do it all without the hassle of editing RAW files, then the X106 is a very nice option. Maybe the only one if you also want an optical viewfinder, tilting LCD and weather sealed body. But you already know all of this, otherwise you wouldn't be here. The internet is full of reviews covering all the features and upgrades, so I will not repeat them all here. It's an impressive list. But it's also important to talk about what has not changed. And the two main things that stay the same are the lens and the viewfinder. The lens is responsible for image sharpness, contrast, rendering, and so has a huge impact on the resulting image quality. Laws of physics are undeniable, so there are some question marks about its ability to resolve the 40 megapixel sensor. All I'm going to say is that I used the X-T5 with 35 1.4 lens, which is a pretty old lens design, and the images this combo produced were very good. So I doubt you will notice anything wrong with the images from X106, unless you will zoom to 100%, and who needs to do that in real life, especially if you are shooting into JPEG with a film simulation backed in. So let's move on and conclude the lens is good enough. The bigger question than resolving power or absence of built-in weather resistance is autofocus speed and its accuracy. I will not judge the focusing speed, it will be okay for most of us who use one center point to focus and recompose, and Fujifilm's tracking features and face recognition are not the best in the market anyway. So we shouldn't expect miracles from this small piece of photographic jewelry. But I wish Fujifilm had redesigned the lens by giving it internal focusing and weather resistance. If they could do it with 27 f2.8 VR while keeping the lens small and light, then it's hard to believe such a change would affect the overall look and size of the X106. But again, it is not a deal breaker. For me, the main hurdle is the viewfinder. The X106 is the only camera in the world that you can buy new with a hybrid optical and electronic viewfinder. You cannot get a new X Pro 3 or X100V, and nobody else is making a camera with this type of viewfinder. And the viewfinder is the main interface between you and the camera. You are using it all the time, looking into it, composing, taking the shot, so it should be the main selling point of the X106. But Fujifilm makes it sound like the 40 megapixel sensor and IBIS are what makes this camera great. If I want a stabilized 40 megapixel sensor in a Fujifilm camera, I can get the X-T5 for less money and with the ability to mount whatever lens I feel like at the moment. I was hoping for a bigger and brighter hybrid viewfinder. I wanted the X106 to be a mini Leica M from the 21st century, but I've got recycled tech from a 4 years old camera. It's a shame, but I get it. Fujifilm did what every corporation does when they stumble upon a successful product. They packed it up with the latest generation components they already had on hand and increased the price. And if it turns you off that the X106 is now made in China, think about it this way. What matters is not the manufacturing location, but the level of quality control. And I'm certain the move to China was mainly driven by the need for higher production capacity. Fujifilm had direct feedback from the used market of X100V and needed to prepare for high demand of the new model. There is nothing wrong with it, especially when the result is still a very good camera, which the X106 undeniably is. And the hype, sold out pre-orders and long waiting times confirm that this strategy is already paying off. But is this camera worth the asking price? $200 is a significant increase from the release price of the X100V, so the price tag of $1,600 can be a pill that's too big to swallow. All that on a camera that is now made in China instead of Japan, but we already discussed business optimization, so let's leave it alone. The sold-out pre-orders show that the price of X106 is acceptable to the market, and if I take into account the inflated prices of used X100V, Fujifilm could have asked for even more. Of course, the high inflation we all have experienced over the last few years had its say as well, although I'm sure your wages have not grown at the same rate. Or have they? But even if the price is set right, the question remains, is it worth spending $1,600 for a fixed lens crop sensor camera with a new sensor IBIS and tilting screen, but recycled lens and viewfinder? And unless you have this kind of money sitting aside, you are probably asking yourself, is it worth trading my current gear for the X106? My Leica CL with the 23mm Summicron is now worth about as much as the new X106. I've been using it pretty much daily for a couple of years now, and it became my trusted companion. It served me well as a street, travel, family and event photography camera despite its shortcomings. I no longer use it with any other lens, so I thought that the Fujifilm X106 would be the right replacement. It looks like the perfect candidate with its stabilized, high megapixel sensor, hybrid viewfinder, tilting screen, robust video features and many more small improvements. But will all these features change the way I take photographs? Will I take better images with the X106? The CL has served me well, and over the years I shot plenty of great photos with it. And that's just talking about a camera and lens of a similar value. I paid £700 for the Nikon ZFC with the 24mm f1.7 lens and can't see many flaws in this setup either. And the Fujifilm X-E3 with the TR-27 f2.8 can be had for even less. On top of that, all of these cameras can mount a wide selection of actual lenses, not just conversion lenses that cannot be used on anything else and will make the X106 bigger and front heavy. So, should you buy it? Well, you don't have a choice if you want a new Fujifilm X100 series camera. But if you already own the X100V, there are many reasons to swap for the new model. The new sensor and IBIS are nice, but not necessary in my opinion. The new camera will feel the same and will not produce significantly better images. And if you definitely don't want to spend $1,600, you can start scouting eBay for a used X100V. Chances are, many owners will want to upgrade to the X106 and prices will go down. I've seen some indications, but only time will tell if the trend will continue. And if you can afford the X106 but don't know what to do, ask yourselves two questions. Have you been hesitating to pre-order this camera? And do you have any other camera that can mount a 35mm lens? If you answered yes to both, then don't buy it. At least not yet. If you haven't bought it yet, then you can wait a few weeks or months longer. Wait for the dust to settle and watch some long-term reviews. Go to a camera shop and hold it in your hands before making the final decision. The hype is real, but it will calm down, and the camera will still be available many months from now. Fujifilm have prepared themselves for the demand, so you will be able to get this camera for Christmas, maybe even with a discount or cashback. Use what you have now, and if you can, try to live with only a 35mm lens. Will that be enough for you? All decisions should be no-brainers, and if there is a seed of doubt, it's not the right thing. I'm not trying to discourage you from getting what you want. The combination of features packed in the X106 is just too good, and despite a few of its shortcomings, it is worth the asking price. I'm just trying to level up the hype and bring some sense into the shopping craze. Knowing myself, I will eventually buy the camera, but not until I get some quality hands-on time with it. I will be back with my experience as soon as Fujifilm makes it possible. Meanwhile, just watch my X100V review and start scouting eBay for some good deals. I have a feeling that it's the 5th generation of the X100 series that will become the sought-after classic.